I am Ambrish Arora from Lotus, and I'm here as a part of Experience Interior Architecture at the AECWORLDEXPO, and I'm really happy to be here. I'm going to start by telling you a little about our firm. We are a 20-people organization. We are a multidisciplinary group consisting of architects, interior designers, exhibition designers, furniture designers, some non-designers, and we are just about 7 years old, and currently we handle a wide variety of work. We like to think of ourselves as deep generalists. That is, we like getting into a variety of genres and projects. So we handle architecture, residential architecture, to hospitality, to retail. Today I'm going to share with you our design process and kind of what leads us to take the path we do, and why. I'm going to do that by walking you through some of our projects, and I'll try and share how those are created right from inception to the execution. So, and I'll try and also walk you through some early projects and how our thinking kind of evolved over time, and where we are today with some of our work. So here we go. I'll start by showing you one of our first projects, which was for a client who came to us and said he was really upset that India was being swarmed by McDonald's and KFCs, and he felt we have such a rich tradition of Indian street food, and why is it that no Indian street food chain is really taking off? And he asked us to produce for him a chain of restaurants which would be India's answers to McDonald's. And his idea was to do a dhaba, and a dhaba is basically an Indian, not a kiosk, but it's an Indian street restaurant, which is usually they're very rustic and raw. And so what was really interesting for us was the fact that he wanted to make. We actually translated the brief into making Indian streets aspirational. So we said we want work at the solution. Let's see what's missing currently that gets people into the competitors' spaces, and what is it we could create. And we started by looking at a variety of subjects we could take from the street and how we could make them aspirational for the youth, because they are the drivers of, so the younger people and the youth are the drivers of where the market goes in the future. So we started by looking at going into the streets of Old Delhi, going to looking at packaging, looking at posters, things that are very iconic in terms of Indian street art. And the very strong graphic imagery that comes across through everyday objects. And for instance, if you look at the kitchen, we started by looking at traditional Indian kitchens and started using utensils as a graphic composition. This was way back in 2003, when steel utensils were really looked down upon as something you didn't want to show, but we kind of took it and converted it into a graphic composition. And that became a part of a facade of our kitchen and the restaurant. With that as a starting point, we moved into working with photo montages of the Indian streets. And so the main kitchen, for instance, was this large window with a little slit cut through where people were cooking across it. So we exposed the kitchen, which is what kind of got in the element of hygiene which was missing in Indian street food. And over the slit, we juxtaposed images of the streets printed on a mirror. So the customer became a part of the street, and people were serving across the radies and the carts, street food carts and things like that. And as you can see in this image, the auto rickshaw, the good old auto rickshaw, became a mascot and a seating in the space. And then, as you can see, we said we won't create any original artwork. Most of our art and graphic imagery was borrowed directly from the street. We just reinterpreted it. So we started creating installations. So tables became large installations of everyday street objects. So like this table that you see here was a beauty product. So we took kajal, surma packaging, soap packaging, and kind of clustered it together to create installations, which became the table. It also allowed us to, so it became a point of conversation for people eating there, and it allowed us to be able to change them as the chain developed. So in a chain, one of the key things is that it's very repetitive and monotonous, and we said in India is about change. So how do we create furniture and objects that allow us to keep changing and yet don't become really difficult to do. So this became one medium which allowed us to change outlet to outlet. And in fact, these installations used to get rotated between outlets, so there was always a sense of movement. I mean, that was basically it. Like this next table you see here uses poster art, that we grew up with in schools about, good habits, bad habits, and we took it out of its context and used them as graphics on tabletops, on walls, so on and so forth. This here is a toy table. We took plastic flowers and reinterpreted them. The way we did furniture was we took a very iconic, like the Godrej chair, the weaving of the Godrej chair, and kind of created seats out of it. So on and so forth. So now I'll move to a project which is completely a tangent from this. We were contacted. This is again very early. We were very fortunate to be contacted by Levi's, and this was actually initially a pitch, and they were facing huge challenges in how they wanted to position the company in India, and they were launching the premium range of products, and their worry was they were getting completely cluttered with various other American brands. In fact, this was a problem they were facing internationally, that while they were pioneers with the product, but in the premium segment they were being completely taken over by companies which had much better communication. So what they started doing is they started setting up these icon stores, which were like little concept stores, which appealed to the alpha group of consumer, who would then lead the market to them. So so while they have standard format stores across the world, but in this case they came to us and said, look, we want to do something that's specific for India, which becomes an imaging store. So the store wasn't about selling products, it was about building the image. And it took us about 6 months to convince them to do this. And what we came up with was it was a tiny 900 square foot store in a very unlikely location for a Levi's store. It was not on a high street or a mall. It was in a 5-star hotel lobby, which is where they wanted to position it. They said, look, their products are way up there. And one of the first things we did was create a sense of intrigue and move away from the traditional store format. So we actually closed up the entire facade. And the whole idea of the store again came from the product. So it's at this point I'd like to add that basically that's been our approach all through. Is we I think we are still students, all of us, and we like to believe we are, and we try and kind of derive the context, the style of the project from the context of the project. So that there is no we believe we still haven't arrived in a space where we say this is how a project should be looked at. So the project gets derived out of the brief, out of the space, and one of the other approaches we have is that we like to reveal the space that the interior is set in. So a lot of our projects which you'll see today will have this very distinct kind of relationship of the interior